And I found something so cool. This is the most evil piece of driftwood I've ever seen. This is amazing, and I need it. I can't not get this. I'm already buying sticks on eBay. Oh my god, I gotta buy it. It was waiting there. It was waiting for me. For me in particular. Like it was trying to find me. I could swear the other driftwood moved away from it. I'll put my cursed driftwood up there too. Hey guys, Simply Betta here. I made a really bad decision a little while ago. I invited something terrible into my home, and it won't leave. I've tried getting rid of it. I've thrown it away. I've driven far away and thrown it into lakes and ponds. I have burned it, but somehow it always finds its way back every time. I've come to accept that it might never leave. So the only thing that I could think to do was to trap it in my attic. Sometimes in the middle of the night, I can hear what sounds like a distant, shuffling, dragging noise. I think it's the driftwood. I think it's displeased. I'm not being a very good host, and I think it wants an acceptable dwelling place. It compels me. It compels me. I'm gonna make this driftwood a tank. I'm gonna make it an aquascape. I'm gonna make it beautiful. I have to, or it will get angry. I know what I'll do. I have a pretty rimless empty tank that I have just sitting around from a project a while ago that I never moved forward with. I also have this really pretty little DIY tank stand that I made for that tank that I never did anything with. But I think it looks nice. I think the driftwood will really like those gold legs. It's almost like an offering. At the time when I made this, I didn't do any cross braces for supports. My plan was that I was going to bolt this to the wall, and that was going to give me my side-to-side support. My plans changed. I'm no longer going to bolt this to the wall. I want it to be a freestanding unit. So I have some cross braces on the back now. I went to my local metal shop and they put those on for me. The only thing though is that it doesn't match. That nice black crossbar back there just doesn't match this really pretty gold leg that I got. And I don't think the driftwood will appreciate that, and it might tick it off even more. So I think the first order of business is I have to do something about the color. Luckily, I can remove this and just give it a little paint job. This is my tank. It's a really nice rimless one that I've had just laying around waiting for a project. I think it would make a really nice resting place for this nightmare that I've brought into my house. So I have the tank and the stand. I have all of my Seiryu stone that I'm going to use for this scape that I got most of it from flipaquatics.com. I also have my driftwood. Sitting right over there. So I have a lot of rock, and I've never done something with a ton of just rocks before. I feel kind of uncomfortable trying to set up a really rock-heavy hardscape that I have in my brain in the tank, you know, like arranging my rocks and gluing them and having to reach into the tank to do that. I think that sounds really annoying. So I ended up taking the dimensions of the tank and taping out a little part on my workspace right here. So this right here is the inner dimensions of the tank. I'm just going to use this desk, and I'm gonna bring my stone up here, and that's where I'm gonna brainstorm a layout, so I don't have to be working in the glass tank while I do it. I have my big pieces of rock. This is Seiryu stone, and it's what I'll be using as the main structure of my hardscape. I'm gonna have a whole lot of rock, and these are all my big pieces. And then I have a box of medium pieces. There's a lot of really nice ones in here. Like some of these I've had for years and I'm just reusing them. Some of them are new from my box from Flip Aquatics. There are some pretty cool ones in here. But then I also have an entire box full of smaller pieces. These are my little pieces I can work with after I figure stuff out. Before I even really worry about the stones, I need to get my evil driftwood all set up and in the place that I want it. Here it is. Putting it right in the middle would look a little imbalanced, I think, so putting it right off to the left just a little bit. I'm just gonna prop it up using some towels. So now, I just have to stare at rocks and try to get a little vision in my brain of how I want this to look. So I'd like for the driftwood to actually be raised up and the top of it is poking up out of the tank. So like the water level maybe is right here. So that tippy top, it's almost like an evil little island. I like the idea of some very angular pieces, very sharp looking. Maybe Seru stone isn't the best to do that sort of thing, but I will try. Now I'm at a part where I just have to, I'm gonna sit and stare at what I have and brainstorm some ideas. It's probably not the most exciting thing in the world to film. So I'm going to I'm gonna think, I'm maybe gonna doodle a little picture, think of some composition that I like, and try my best to replicate it. Maybe I'll go to sleep tonight, maybe the evil driftwood will speak to me in my dreams and tell me what it thinks. I took some photos and then I brought them into Photoshop to help me make some decisions for the layout without having to waste too much time. I superimposed the images, I moved it up, and I started doodling like an incredibly basic idea to start with. One really valuable thing I learned from this cool guy right here is a method for gluing rocks together. It turns out that if you stuff some unraveled cigarette filters between rocks into little crevices, and then you dribble liquid superglue onto them, it becomes like cement really quickly. This is a really great way to glue rocks together, so thank you to this cool guy. Okay, it's slowly starting to come together. I've been working on it today in little tiny chunks during my day while my kids scream in the background. Because it's taking me so much time to figure out how the rocks are gonna be placed, like I haven't really been filming that, but I think it's looking pretty nice. This method of using rubber bands to hold your little like smallish rocks in place while you glue it is awesome. Stealing lots of knowledge from other aquascapers. I'm getting to a point right now where I'm having some trouble keeping the wood attached to the rock because the super glue method, it doesn't want to really stick to the wood. So I'm gonna rely on my trusty old friend, the 2-part epoxy putty. If you watched the video where I made my custom leopard gecko enclosure, which I'll be doing another one soon, like a bigger one, I used this putty to make my fake rocks. And I'm actually going to be using it in a few places to mimic some rock. I need a better solution for balancing this piece of wood. I couldn't really film it while I was working, but I put that putty in some places to attach the rocks better to their little platforms, to balance out some edges so they're not so tippy, attaching some pebbles, filling in some gaps, stuff like that. The epoxy putty that I used set up really nicely overnight, so I'm gonna move this now over to the fish tank. It won't be hard because I made it in sections, so I'll do that. Now that this is in, I can definitely tell him I want to push it back a little bit more. But because I put it on this little piece of egg crate, I can kind of do that pretty easy. I'll just slip the egg crate back a little bit. I put this down here, one, so the rocks wouldn't be resting directly on the glass, but also I could wiggle it back and forth ever so slightly to get the perfect spot. All right, I think this is looking pretty cool. Yeah, let's go with it. Let's roll with it. So now I'm gonna be using a bunch of my other rocks to fill in the gaps in this cave beneath the evil driftwood. I think I'm gonna add some substrate so I can help visualize what it's gonna look like with some substrate to help hold some rocks in place. This substrate that I'll be using is this one. It's kind of heavy, so I have to hold it like this. This is Brightwell Florin Volcanite. It's a buffering planted tank substrate. And it comes in this really nice small granule black, which I think is gonna look really nice with this tank. I'm gonna kind of gently put it in with a cup so it doesn't go all over the place. Now, Brightwell Aquatics is my sponsor, guys. I'm very biased towards using their products because that's why they're my sponsor. I use all their stuff all the time. This is the same buffering substrate that I use for my soft water species where I'm trying to control the pH. It's a very nice Japanese volcanic ash fired substrate. I'm just gonna fill in some of the substrate here in the bottom of the cave. I'm really just trying to get some inspiration. I moved the light so I can get a better sense of what's going on. I don't think I'm going to use this particular, like a bar light in this tank. I want something that's not going to obscure the wood, but I'm just using that while I work so I can see what's happening. It's looking pretty cool. I like the detail in there in the cave. I'm gonna go ahead and seal up that crack. Yeah, it's looking pretty neat. So close to rounding out this main structure. So now I'm gonna go back to using my epoxy putty. I have a bit of it prepared right here. I'm gonna go seal a couple of holes and cracks. I'm gonna solidify the structure. I think I'm ready to move on to the next step. My cave is complete. If you guys have been watching me since I made the Hobbit tank, which was a fun custom decoration aquascape I made, and I sculpted all my Shire decorations. I made Bilbo's house. You might remember these bags of Hydroton. It's a really lightweight clay-fired pellet. I put a bunch of these super lightweight Hydroton into some pantyhose to kind of keep it all in one little easy-to-use baggie. And I used it as bulk. So like, check this out. I'm gonna set it right back here in this corner. You know, instead of having to fill that up with expensive substrate and heavy substrate or rocks, I can now use this really lightweight stuff instead. Now that I banked up some of the back sides, I'm gonna go ahead and put the rest of my Brightwell Florin Volcanite substrate in. I did it. I did it. I did it. Do you think it likes it? Do you think it likes its hardscape? I did my best to make like an interesting composition, like the jagged, toothy stones kind of point your eyes this way and then up and then this way and up. I took the light off just to be able to get a better look at this without that distracting light on the top. And I really like it. It feels very dramatic. I think that cave will have a neat sense of depth, especially when this thing's full of plants. I think it likes it. I think the evil driftwood is finally starting to become pleased. And that makes me happy, because I live to serve my evil driftwood.